Mikey Zakoski, thank you very much for joining me today, the new coach of Belconnen United NPLW side. First, let's start with how did the opportunity to join Belco come about?
First and foremost, thanks for having me on. It's been a while since we've spoken last, and hopefully this season can present a few more opportunities for us to speak more often. Obviously, those who know me and those who know a little bit about what I'd like to do with my football will know that I'm passionate, always willing to learn and would like to work at the highest rate possible. So once I saw the opportunity open to join Belconnen, it was a no-brainer. I think I had to put my name forward, and it's something I really wanted to apply for. It so happens that I was successful in the role, and I think that the club recognises my belief and my attitude, and we align a lot in that sense. We both want to do great things for the players and obviously continue the legacy that's already there at the club. So it really worked out well for us in that sense.
And you've just returned from Spain to a quarantine in Perth. What was that experience like for you? I know you've had a few other experiences in Spain, but this is COVID season. So how did that? What was that like, especially in a place like Europe that's been so affected by it?
It's challenging. I think even some of the restrictions as far as football go, we weren't able to have the same freedom over there as we are here. In terms of general mask requirements, I think the way of living over there is much harder at the minute. You need to wear a mask everywhere you go, you need to sanitise everywhere you go, and at one stage we were even living in a curfew, so we weren't allowed out before 7 and weren't allowed out after 10 o'clock, so that makes it difficult as well just to enjoy your time outside of football. So I guess in terms of the way we were training, a lot of the restrictions were pretty tough. There were times where we would have to wear masks during the training, and you'd see that happen a little bit more in the more affected areas of Spain, more so in Madrid. I think that coming out of quarantine, it was always going to be nice and refreshing to be back in Australia, and obviously in a country that's managing the COVID situation a lot more effectively than others. So it's nice, it gives us an opportunity to really focus on life, where at the minute a lot of people around the world are really driven about how they're keeping their health systems up and running, how they're keeping their economies up and running. We're really lucky that we can actually pursue hobbies and sports at the minute.
They've been the pillar of women's football. They didn't win last year, but they've won, I think, something like, besides 2017 and 2020, they won the last 10 or something like that, besides those two. So how's it feel sort of joining a club that already has such a set sort of mould in terms of the way they run their women's portion of the club?
I've had a good opportunity to speak with a lot of members in the club, and Hamish, even on the men's side of things, Fabian. A lot of people have really embraced that the club is going through a transition. There are a lot of senior players who have been successful there over recent years, and maybe it is that time in the club's life where we are seeing a few younger players come through, and I think that's just going to be a nice challenge for me to maybe stamp my legacy on the club. I think that with Ant's success over I can't recall how many years he's done well there, at least 10. Seeing that happen for so long is a big motivation to obviously want to maintain it. And I think maybe the club can try something new. I think the big thing there that I've seen so far is the club culture, where we're driven on winning, but at the same time we're driven on reflecting on who we are as people before we even hit the pitch. And the first thing I can say is that the club's really embraced me and made me feel comfortable. And I think that when you're in the right environment, you can really get the results you're after. And with the playing group that we're building so far, I find it difficult to see that we won't be competitive this year, even with young players stepping into some maybe more senior roles.
What do you know so far about the NPLW and sort of how it's grown over the last 5 or so years? It's sort of grown in its own in terms of quality and popularity in that regard.
I actually don't talk about this all too often. A lot of people associate me with the men's game. It happens to be the job that I've wanted for the last 3-4 seasons. It's the one that was maybe a little bit unreachable at that stage, just with general experience and accreditation. But I've been fortunate enough to build that over the last 3 years and finally, I guess, received the job of my dream. It's a goal I've been working for a long time. So in terms of what I know about the competition, I have been following it, seeing that obviously Belconnen generally promote a lot of the players that will go into the W League system, and even when the W League finishes, we see a lot of those players return just because of the club culture and what that club is about. Over quarantine, I was pretty fortunate. I had a lot of spare time on my hands, so I had a good opportunity to really review what was done last season and what was done previous to that with Bar TV Sports and the footage that's collected from that. That's really fortunate because it helps us really define and analyse what's been done and what was effective. So our coaching staff thus far has really assessed that. We have a clear picture on the players we want to retain. We have a clear picture of maybe some of the new players that are joining the group. And I believe that once they start to undertake our player development philosophy, they start building into what's going to be the new Belconnen team for 2021, I can't see why we wouldn't be as competitive as previous years.
Have you had any interactions with the playing squad or any training so far, or is that further down the line of the month?
So we've been in contact with all the players. We've essentially kept obviously their contact details and gotten in touch with them all individually over the last few weeks. There is some exciting news that we won't share just at this stage, but we may see a few familiar faces returning. And the biggest thing for that is we are trying to find a good balance. We want strong senior players that have really experienced football at a high level, and also some younger players that are finding their feet in the women's game. And I think there's going to be a good balance into finding, these senior players really mentor these young players coming through into the next generation. It's something that we're definitely going to talk about over the coming weeks when news starts to spread, but we're building something that's going to be long-lasting here. It's definitely going to be a new generation.
And as we wrap up, heading into sort of the main training, trial period of February, what's going to be your approach? What do you feel like you're going to bring to the table for this club?
We make no illusion that we have some quality players we're working with, some who have worked with much higher level coaching staff than us. So obviously it's going to be a good learning period to see what they can bring to the team. And more or less just get the players all on the same page. We're all motivated. Everyone's itching to get back to training, and I wish that I'd done my quarantine a little bit earlier so we could have started earlier. But really over the course of the pre-season we want to build and continue this environment, this culture, and start introducing the players to the way we want to play. There's going to be a number of systems, a number of styles that we're going to play this season. Maybe sometimes a bit more catered to the opposition, maybe sometimes more focused on the way that we want to play and the Belconnen DNA. But it really is just getting the players on the same page and building this family that's going to help grow results and earn results this year.